Thank you. That was so beautiful. Thank you. Thanks for having me. So, my name is Jenny Donner. I am, my body, this form, is from Sweden originally, where I was born in 1976. And for as long as I remember, I was seeking God and seeking the truth. And I didn't know where to find it. I was growing up in a Christian congregation and family, like a Baptist type setting. And when I was about 13, I decided I want to know some answers. And why do they drag me to this church every Sunday if it has nothing to offer? Because I certainly didn't feel like there was much that I got excited about there. But at that age, I decided I would start to listen and really see for myself. So I started listening to the sermons, and I started feeling some kind of inspiration, and especially when they spoke about the Holy Spirit. And I had studied the Bible a lot myself, and was inspired by certain texts in the Bible, like the Sermon on the Mount, where Jesus speaks very clearly, and certain lines that Jesus said really spoke to me, where I could feel the truth. And when I started learning about the Holy Spirit, which is the communication link between man and God, I got really inspired, because I thought, there must be some experience there of spirit within that I can have. So I started practicing prayer and started praying for guidance. And it felt like life was a maze, like very complicated, very difficult to find answers. So through the years, I got baptized and I gave myself fully to this Christianity. But there were things I didn't really resonate with or understand. I tried to understand why I was so sinful. They told us, you sin every day. And I tried to figure out what I was sinful, what that I was doing wrong all the time. I knew I made mistakes and stuff like that, but I couldn't figure it out. So at the age of 22, I started seeking deeper, and my personal life went I married when I was 19, and had a son when I was 20. And so, but it wasn't harmonious. It wasn't like me and my husband understood each other and, had a great joining. There was a lot of fear and anger and like a gap. I felt like it was a gap that was huge. I didn't know how to join with him, and I was probably afraid that I know now, but back then I couldn't explain it. And I longed for God. So when my son was about 3, I divorced with the help from a pastor who was very liberal in his thinking. And it needed to be that way for me to dare to take that step, because I thought I was bound for life to this marriage. So I took that step, and after that, the spirituality I longed for started deepening, and I felt like God kept talking to me, saying, so in Swedish, he said, or I heard the line, Herrens hage är väldigt vid, which means the corral of the Lord is very wide. And to me, that meant it goes beyond the church. Leave church. So I left church, and I had to face the fear of hell, because that is what is preached within Christianity, that there is a hell and a heaven. And before this, I wanted to save everybody, because I didn't want anybody to go to hell. So I was knocking on people's doors and stuff like that. But then I thought, okay, I go to hell, so be it. I have to follow my heart, and it's speaking loudly, and it's too constrained to be in a church like this and to believe this is the only truth. So I started expanding. I started reading books about reincarnation and different spiritual things that came my way. And in 2005, A Course in Miracles came into my life, and it was so profound for me because it has a very Christian language, and it spoke to me so deeply, and it explained all those weird things that were unexplained so far. It explained that sin is but a mistake. It explained I am guiltless, I am sin-free, I am innocent, that is my true self. But there are layers in the mind that makes me feel sinful, that makes me feel little and distant, and this gap between me and others. So it explained all those things so beautifully, and it explained the fall from grace, like the separation from God, as a mistake in the mind. The ego is a fearful thought in the mind that makes us think we have separated from God. But there is, in reality, no separation. Like, we know this more or less, and we have had experiences of, maybe we have had experiences of oneness and what is truly true, that is beyond the bodies and the form of things. So all those things started to feel really clear just by reading the Course in Miracles, and I read it day and night. I was a psychology student at the time. I was in the psychology program at the university, but I just could not study those teachings because A Course in Miracles felt like the true psychology. So I stopped reading my books, and I still went to the university for a whole first year and took the exams beautifully. I prayed for guidance and help, and I made it through. And then in the summer, then I had the course for about 7 months, and I thought, I need other people. I need to see who else have found this gem that is so helpful for me. So I Googled Course in Miracles friends in Sweden. And there was no Swede that showed up. There was an American. It was the face of David Hoffmeister. It said he's coming to Sweden, like a month after this Googling. And I felt in my heart, this is important, go see him. So I went to see David Hoffmeister in Sweden and had a profound experience. And he also spoke very clearly about the sinlessness, which was helpful for me because I wanted to live right. And it was heavy and difficult because, you know, how you contribute to pollution just by having a car, for example. And I drove 2 hours to this event, one person in my car, myself, and I thought that this contributes a lot to the pollution, and this is not very good. Plus, I wanted to go home after 2 hours because I felt like David had answered all my questions, so I felt finished, and I thought, oh, what a waste. But he assured me there is nothing that you can do or don't do or not do in form that will affect your sinlessness. You are guilt-free, no matter what. And I felt so relieved and so happy. And so those things and much more got clear. And then after this was July 2006, and then I just couldn't carry on with the psychology program after that. I did go to the first lecture, which was social psychology, and the lecturer talked about people who take a whole other path than the conventional. And I felt all along he spoke about me. So my heart was like pounding. And at the end, I just stood up to the whole class, about 60, 70 people. I said, this feels like he spoke about me, and I'm quitting. So I didn't go back. Instead, I went home, and I thought, okay, God, okay, I gave up everything now. Tell me what to do. But it was quiet. And I literally sat down on my living room floor for about 3 months. And I took walks, and I did some yoga exercises. I read the course. But I didn't do anything other than that for 3 months. And I had this deep longing prayer, show me what I'm meant to do. And show me my mighty companions. A Course in Miracles says, we have mighty companions. And I thought that sounded awesome. I thought that there are people that are real, that I can connect with. Because I certainly had not felt like a connection in my relationships. And I knew I didn't want the surface connection anymore. I actually stopped answering the phone, or if somebody knocked on my door, I was very prayerful before I opened. Did I feel to open? Did I feel to talk to somebody or not? And most of the time I didn't. So I said no a lot. I said no a lot to family and friends. And then in October, November, my son was about 9.5 or 10. He was going to be 10 in early November. I received an invitation to go to Fairfield, Iowa, because I had been a meditator for transcendental meditation, and to go to the Golden Domes they have there in the University of Maharishi. And I felt very deeply, this I wanted to do. And the invitation was to come for a whole year and meditate for 8 hours a day. 2,000 women in one dome, 2,000 men in one dome from all over the world, because Transcendental Meditation movement, they want to create world peace through bringing meditators together. I wanted enlightenment, and I thought this will be great. And I couldn't sleep for like 3 nights after I received the invitation. It was so strong. But there was a big, huge block, question mark, and it was, I'm a mother. My son was only 10 years old. So I felt I can't do this. And everybody around me said, you cannot just take off, of course. And some people said it's a cult, or it's in Europe they say it's a sect. It's dangerous. And I knew that wasn't the case. But I still felt this huge doubt about my son. At the same time, I couldn't deny the calling. And that was actually the only thing I wanted. And I loved my son, I still do. And had been a good mother so far. But at that time, I started wanting to go within so much more. So I thought, so when I shared about it, I started to explore, can I really go? And do I have the money? And would it work? And could he move to his dad? And everybody said no. And they said, wait 10 years, or wait 8 years at least, till he's 18. And I felt like that is not God. God doesn't wait. But there was a conflict. Is this the ego that wants to drive me away from my son? Because it doesn't seem loving. So I had those questions. And when nobody supported me, I just decided to drop the whole idea of going to Fairfield. And that day, I felt like I had dropped myself, God, the whole universe and everything. I felt lost. I felt everything was meaningless. I was in a vast void of loneliness. And in that place, a state of mind, I just sat down again. And after a few hours, this presence appeared all around me. And two huge light beings was a couple of meters, 3 meters from me in my bedroom. Huge. They were probably like up to this ceiling, if they couldn't even be measured, but they were huge. And they were filled with love. And so there are different things about them. They were my mom and dad in their pure beingness. And all this I knew on a level beyond the intellect, on a level that is more real than the perceptual level. So it's more real, if that makes sense. And they started communing to me and started communicating with me. And it was a very direct communication. It was an immediate communication. And they answered all my questions. And they said in the end, we want to tell you why we're here. You're going to go on a journey, and we are so grateful that you're going to do this. And then they were gone, seemingly. In my experience, they were gone. But my experience of them lasted, and I thought, wow. I felt so strengthened, empowered, and ready to say yes and go to Fairfield. So I told everybody again, I'm going. And they were still complaining and fearful, including my earthly parents. And I said, come home and let's talk. I just want you to feel that it's okay. I'm going to do this. I know you're afraid. I only need you to drive me to the airport. Is that okay? And they said, yeah, sure. But they cried, and they were fearful about it. But I wasn't fearful anymore, so it didn't matter what people said. I was very, very sure. And even my son was, he had moved to his dad, and we decided he was moving to his dad. And he was fine. He was a little scared because he had heard that America is dangerous. And he thought, if you go on a plane, maybe, the plane will crash or something. So I said, no, I don't think that will happen, and I will stay in contact with you. So I did go to Fairfield, Iowa, and I was there for about 3 weeks only. And then Spirit guided me onwards to go to David Hoffmeister at the Peace House in Cincinnati. And that was the beginning of a huge journey. I had to undo the belief in Sundays, the belief in time, because we have this, I think, this conditioning about being a doer and being productive and all of that. And so even, that you should sleep at night and be productive in the day, because what was I there for? I didn't even know, other than I was guided to go there, and I was there for enlightenment. But in form, there was no, it wasn't like a school or it was a seeming person, David, a magnificent teacher, but there was no form, curriculum, or anything other than A Course in Miracles. So it was scary because we're used to having some structures, in our lives, and the shoulds, even if we don't like them, we rely on the shoulds. But all of a sudden I had no shoulds and no, nothing. So I saw my mind, and my mind was wild. And I thought, oh, wow, I need to train my mind. And also the experience with the light beings showed me that my perception is completely off. because the light beings were my biological parents, as they truly are. And that was not my experience of my earthly parents. So I knew I have to work on my perception, and that's my job. So that's what I started doing. And I started watching my mind from moment to moment with the help of the Course in Miracles and David and other mighty companions. So there they were. They were David and 2 or 3 more that I started to get to know very deeply. And so this talk is about, and this afternoon is about awakening through relationship, and that's certainly what I learned. A Course in Miracles is a path of relationship in the sense that we don't perceive each other truly. We don't know who the other one is. And that's our job, to see what blocks we have put up to love and to perceive truly. And I thought, and I felt the support from Spirit that whatever it takes to learn that. Because I want to be happy. I want to know who I am. And there was an anger anytime I compromised. Anytime I used the word should. Anytime I called my parents out of a should. I felt like a person that, and that's not who I am. And there is an anger in us when we limit ourselves to that. And so I heard from Spirit, from the inner voice, that take your time and do this. Take this journey. And it's going to serve me and everyone and everything, yourself, your son, and everything. So it was very clear and obvious. So, and also I was very drawn to meditation. That had been, I think it has been my path in my earlier life. But even that, I could drop a bit. And the Course in Miracles talks beautifully about that I find meditation really powerful and helpful at times. But it talks about this future goal that we might have if we try to meditate a lot. We try to fix a present state for a future goal, which is very time-consuming. It can be. So if the experience is not there after a few minutes, and the Course in Miracles advises that too, if you don't have an experience within the first few minutes, don't try any harder. Don't push yourself. So I started following that advice and learning that relationships are the way. And this morning there was a line that really spoke to me. It said, your brothers are everywhere, so you don't have to seek for salvation. Every moment is a chance to save yourself. Do not lose those chances, not because they will not return, but because the delay of joy is needless, it says. And I thought, when I heard that this morning, I thought, that is really beautiful. And so what does it mean then to use relationships? And it says, your brothers are everywhere, so don't delay, don't seek for salvation. It means I need to forgive or transcend my perception of my brothers. That's what it means. And not to look to form. Because the Course says your brother is the Christ, but it's not your brother's body that is the Christ. It's the being of your brother and sister. So, since we project everything that we perceive, we have a chance to see what we believe in everyone and everything around us. So that's what it means by forgiving our perception and transcending our perception of others and the world. And I like sharing about that because I like encouraging others to take the same steps that I did, because it works. No matter what you're called to and your guidance is, like, do it. Don't wait, because it works. And we have to follow our hearts to undo limitations. So I was going to speak for 20 minutes. I don't know if I did already now.
Well, if you're finished, what we'd like to do is have give you feedback or ask more questions.
Sure.
Would that be good?
Yes.
Good.
Let's do that. And and of course I will carry on at 1:30. So I'd love for all of you to stay for that. Thank you. Yeah. I'd say actually it's about trying in the beginning and allowing to follow, even if we're not sure. Following our intuition, because it's very much the intuition will be guiding us, and then we'll start to feel this powerful yes versus if it is a no. It will be very easy, but we have to allow ourselves to try. So the word try is important. And also the flow, like if things flow very well, then it's very obvious that it's guidance. And that happens often, more and more. And of course, Miriam says there is nothing that is at random. So even your whole day can be filled with this feeling of flow and miracles, and signs everywhere, messages everywhere, because your mind is open to it. So that's the way. I've always been drawn to psychology, and to know the psyche is very interesting, because we are conditioned, and we may sit on deep fears that have from childhood or from people in past lives, or from way back, that make us interpret even guidance in a fearful way.
Yeah.
So we may try to oppose it. So we need to be so gentle with ourselves when we do this work, because it is about undoing the fear, first and foremost. It's not about doing the right thing, because that's also something I discovered in my mind. Growing up in Christianity, it was so much about being like a missionary and go out and work and change other people. Instead, this is different. This is all about undoing the blocks to love's awareness. It has nothing to do about changing the world, changing other people. So that is important. And even when I have guidance to come and speak somewhere, or do something like this, there can be fear or anger coming up at God. For 2 years, Jesus spoke directly to me, because I had to undo my image of Jesus from Christianity. I was so ashamed of him.
Ashamed of him?
Of Jesus, yes.
Oh.
Because in Europe, Jesus is not popular.
Okay.
God.
Look what you did.
He has a better status here in the U.S.
Okay.
So for 2 years, he spoke directly, and it was him. There was no doubt. He had me do things and say things to undo my image of him, to forgive him completely. And it lasted for about 2 years, and then the voice became more like spirit, more like an inner voice. So that was very helpful.
So thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Okay. Thank you.